right, everyone. We're excited for this session. I'm Spencer Dunn. I'm one of the co-founders and co-CEOs of Clozd. And today, the treat we have for you is John Timpson's here. You'll introduce yourself. I'm gonna say the fun part about John Timpson. John Timpson, every time you talk to your Amazon Echo, you can thank this guy. He was one of the original engineers working on that at Amazon prior to joining Qualtrics, where he led the engineering organization and was responsible for helping take that company from roughly $100 million to $1.5 billion in revenue. So very accomplished, probably one of the foremost minds of research technology in the world. So super excited to spend some time talking with you, JT. So what did I miss in that intro?
Not much. Spent 10 years at Amazon. Had a great ride there. Ultimately wanted to go to a smaller business and had a chance to join Qualtrics relatively early and helped grow that business into a large business that was focused on experience management and not just sort of academic market research. And currently working with Clozd and very excited about the state of the product and the technology that you all have and what it might mean and what it will mean going forward for research and for win-loss analysis and more.
Yeah, awesome. So that's a good segue. All we're hearing about in the tech space is how AI is changing everything. And you're someone who's well connected in the tech industry, talking to venture capitalists, talking to operators, talking to CEOs. And everybody talks about AI, or AI, but the practical applications of it are really, still need to be ironed out, I would argue. But what are you seeing, and how do you think that's going to change traditional research technology?
Yeah, it's been really interesting, over the last 20 years to see how research has evolved from pen and paper and in-person interviews to online surveys where you basically had a form that mimicked what the paper experience was like, and you had sort of cross tabs that you would use for analysis, to online dashboards and workflows and rich text analytics more recently. I think AI today delivers a bunch of practical applications for research practitioners. If you think about just analysis, just the task of analysis, what are the drivers behind the data that I'm seeing? That used to be a pretty involved exercise. Not only just doing the analysis, but standing up the reports, validating the correctness of it, and AI can do something like that in a matter of
seconds.
Seconds. I was going to say minutes, but you're right, it's seconds. And then with the popularity of sort of open-ended text responses and multimodal responses, where you're not just getting text data now, you're getting audio and video, it becomes increasingly challenging to process and analyze those types of data with traditional approaches. And that's where text analytics and natural language processing and natural language understanding have such significant practical applications today in how research is done. And if you think about just selection, panel selection, and who you're interviewing and why, again, it used to be a long process to sort of figure out the right targeting rules for who you should reach out to and when you should reach out to them. And that's another area that AI has made a lot simpler very recently. So that's all stuff that's happening today and is in
right
use
now
by practitioners today. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Like you and I are both familiar, and most people are familiar with this idea of I have a form, I have a set of questions I'm trying to get answered. I have to spend a lot of time thinking about that form, make sure that it's totally right. I send it out. I then aggregate it. I put it into a bar chart, and then I'm trying to make sense of what those bars mean and what the people really meant or felt or thought while they were filling it out. Whereas to your point today, you can just have a conversation with somebody and you can plug all those conversations into an AI interface and allow it to go summarize it and tell you, this is what's happening. Here's how people feel. And you get richer data faster. And it's actually easier for the participant is one of the things that's the most crazy to me. Like the idea of taking a 20-minute survey to me versus having a 20-minute conversation like we're going to have right now is fundamentally different.
Survey fatigue is real,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, especially with the popularity of survey and market research tools and online market research in the last decade. I mean, everybody's inundated with surveys all the time.
Yeah.
And some of them are quite long. And you click onto the first page and you're like, oh man, this is going to be a 20-minute journey. Wherein if you were just asked a series of targeted questions that you could respond, either using video or audio, or even typing it into an open-ended text box, that becomes a lot more efficient way of providing the same information, assuming that you have the right tools to analyze it.
And process it on the back end.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk practically about first win-loss and then other applications outside of this. We've talked a lot about this, but maybe share how you're seeing how some of these applications of using AI can help companies run better win-loss programs, collect more qualitative feedback, share that more broadly. What are some of the coolest applications that you get excited about when we talk and when we're in board meetings and other things?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm an engineer, and so I tend to think in terms of platforms and capabilities. And one of the things that's been so impressive about joining as a board member of Clozd has been a chance to sort of learn more about the core platform that you have all built, and how you really think about this problem of win-loss through this idea of building a platform with these basic components that can be used to deliver a win-loss program. What's really interesting about that, though, is that all those same basic components can be used across a wide variety of use cases. Why did my customers churn? Right, like it's an age-old question, and the idea that Clozd through neutral third parties, right, can prevent some of the biases that might otherwise happen when you're talking to somebody who's involved in a transaction, is a huge value add. Yeah. And it's incredibly important to get unbiased data in that regard. And so if you think about all the touch points for a customer where it's important to get unbiased data, right, neutral data that is primarily multimodal, video and audio, that then needs to be transcribed and analyzed so that you can derive insights to drive action and change, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of potential use cases. Why are prospects saying no? From job candidates saying no to our offers, right? Yeah. Why are employees churning? Why are employees unhappy with the benefits packages, right? And the beauty about the approach that you can take with Clozd is that the AI components that you have built have simplified some of the methodology-related complexity that would normally get in the way of just getting answers, right? Yeah. And you can get going really quickly with it, right? Yeah. And so I'm excited about a wide variety of use cases, and I think that sort of just longitudinally where the world is going with always connected devices and social apps, people are going to be more comfortable interfacing in a multimodal way versus typing in long surveys. Yeah.
One of the main value props of using AI is it can make you obviously much more efficient. And you think about using AI in the research process to make somebody more efficient fundamentally changes our cost basis as a business, right? Yeah. Whereas, even just 2 years ago, I have to staff somebody that chase you down to get a list of names, staff people to do all of your interviews, staff people to review all the interviews, summarize all the information, build you reports. And when you actually start to back that out, I have this whole platform that can enable it, but I still have to have people at those posts to do that work. Well, now you can start to use AI to remove the human element, and you get better output. You actually get more consistent output. You get as good a work product. What's really cool about that is how's that going to change the economics for our customers to go collect more feedback, right? So it's not just like, hey, historically, a lot of companies, they use us and they say, I really want to do win-loss, but I'm really just going to focus on like my most important deals, my biggest deals, because it costs a lot of money for each one of these. But I have this huge long tail of clients that I'm losing or winning. And I'd love to check in with other companies or with buyers after they select us and see how they're doing and do like more of a CX motion. I'd love to do product research, and AI opens up that whole world for our customers.
Absolutely. And I think about it as being one of the options on a continuum.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you may have complete like AI driven, personas that are doing, interviews that are adaptive and that are tailored to the business and to the interview guide style that you want. And that may be appropriate for, for example, a top of funnel loss scenario for, a consumer application.
Yeah.
On the other hand, on the other end of the spectrum, I think it's going to be really important to still interact with real human beings when you're talking about contracts that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of the Clozd platform is that you're going to be able to build AI capabilities that will enable businesses to get the data that they need at the cost point that makes sense for them across that entire spectrum. Yeah. And so instead of sort of being like, I know the value of this and I have to save it for my most important customers or the most important contracts, then I can be like, I understand the value and I love the insights that are being provided by the AI tools. Now I can apply it to all these other problems that I have because we have things like flex interviews or AI-powered personas that are doing adaptive interviews.
Yeah.
And that's not quite there yet, but it will be soon. I mean, flex interviews are here today or will be here today soon. Yeah. But AI-driven adaptive personas will be just around the corner.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So a lot of the stuff we've been embedding and adding to the platform over the last year and a half, and have a pretty good foothold so that those economics are starting to make sense and customers are applying it to other things. Like for example, the Flex interviews, we launched the first version of Flex like a year and a half ago, and we're surprised by the number of customers that adopted it. And I'm getting really, really in-depth feedback. Now, when you apply a Flex style interview, that's a video-based interview with follow-on AI questions that's now available, the research gets better. Then you start thinking, how do I apply AI to summarize this and push it to the right people in the organization and other things like that? There's so many applications. We've talked about a ton here and offline. What are some of the things that you're most excited about the future of our roadmap?
Well, I'm incredibly excited by the changes that you're making to the platform to move beyond win-loss. And to allow people to explicitly use the product and the platform to address these other use cases, right? Just because if you think about the fundamental primitives that you bring to bear with AI flex interviews, smart tags, decision drivers, and all the rich analytics and reporting capabilities you have, along with the integrations that you already have in place with other systems of record like Salesforce. Like these are very powerful primitives that can be used across, customer churn, renewal, implementation, tons of use cases. And I think getting the platform to a place where it will support those additional use cases out of the box is incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
I think farther afield, right, I'm really excited about another hot buzzword in the industry today is sort of agentic AI systems, right? Yeah. And how can you start to have AI agents work on behalf of companies and businesses? And I think the applications, there in the future, in the far future, are going to be incredibly important, right? Hey, we just heard from this win-loss interview that price was an issue or that there was a feature gap, right? Instead of waiting a quarter for that information to reach the product team, you could imagine a world where an AI agent creates a backlog entry in Jira and then uses the data from Salesforce to give it a revenue number so that you can sort of associate a priority with it.
Figure out how big of a deal is this.
Exactly. Right. And so I think the future where we start to take all the insights and the data that we gather from Clozd and push it into other parts of the business to help them run more effectively is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, it's super awesome. And the cool part about this we call it like re-platforming that we're doing is it's not like we're moving in a direction and hoping it works. We have a whole bunch of customers that have been bending Clozd for years now to do this other stuff and just giving them a better solution to do it. And then all these tools to make it so that they can get more scale out of it. So one of the most interesting things when we start talking about AI, there's a lot of excitement,
Sure.
but then there's also like nervousness.
Yep.
I can't set out this interviewing agent that's going to go hallucinate and start saying crazy stuff to my customer, or is this going to take my internal data and share it externally on accident or whatever? What are some of the biggest concerns that you foresee happening, and how do we get people comfortable with this stuff over time?
Well, it's those are great examples, right? And there have been lots of cases this year where off-the-shelf LLMs have been prompted to expose data that they shouldn't have been able to expose, right? So you can imagine a AI-driven interviewer, being prompted by the interviewee to divulge information that they shouldn't, right? Yeah. For example, on other customers, right? And so that would be obviously not good. And so I think it goes to the sort of the implementation for how Clozd is going to think about AI-powered interviews. You're going to have guardrails in place. Right? Yeah. You're going to have to think really carefully about which platforms you use, which data is present, and then how you actually train the AIs to be respectful of the data that they will obviously have knowledge of. Sampling is going to be really important, right? Like you're not going to just do 1,000 AI interviews and call it a day. You're still going to want to spot check with real human interviewers and make sure that the data that you're getting from both methods is aligned, right? You'll probably, adopt a crawl, walk, run approach with AI interviews, where you sort of try it, and have a slow rollout, right? Yeah. You sort of look at the results carefully initially, and that'll probably be part of an implementation plan for how you adopt AI agents going forward. I think one of the standards that we've been talking a lot about on the R&D side, which is you have agents writing code. Yeah. And how do you verify that the code is correct? Yeah. Right? The reality is that today the best practice is that humans review and they audit. And in a world where you have agentic systems deriving insights and potentially publishing action plans based off of those insights or acting on those action plans, it's going to be really important to have a governance framework in place inside of your business so that you have audit mechanisms, right? Yeah, and you're reviewing what's going on. No one knows what's going on. Yeah. Totally. So I think those are some of the ideas I have about it.
Yeah. It's like the Terminator. It's like the Terminator scenario where the machines take over and no one's actually checking and making sure that it's all right.
Those are more, those are forward-looking AI scenarios, right? And I think people have already, a lot of knowledge workers have become very comfortable just using LLMs as part of their day-to-day job because they can see really quickly the benefits and productivity that they get from using it. Yeah. And so I think starting with use cases that are sort of part of your daily job and part of your rhythm is going to help people get more comfortable with AIs taking a larger role in end-to-end workflows.
Yeah. It's one of those things where the way I envision it is it will start small and you'll give very discrete small tasks.
Totally.
And then as it gets better, you'll trust it more and it will get better and you'll be able to give broader tasks. So, right now it's, hey, maybe help me figure out who are the right deals to go interview. Hey, help me create a simple report for this product leader. Hey, do an interview that's a CX style interview with my at-risk customers. And then down the road, it might be, I need you to go design an end-to-end workflow for me for how we're going to engage with customers and go execute it.
So what are you most excited about as you think about the next 2 years, 12 months to 2 years of work that you have ahead of you on the platform?
This is a great question because you think about the way people get input from their markets, from their customers. There's been these traditional modes like a focus group or a survey, and you get survey responses, or you do interviews and you do one-on-one interviews. And you've done that and you've done those modes because they were what were practical at the time. With the advancement of technology and the idea that you can go have these are just conversations. You just go have conversation after conversation after conversation. A win-loss interview is great win-loss interviews don't feel like question answer. They feel like great conversations.
Exactly.
Great CX interviews feel like conversations. And any type of great research that I've ever been a part of where you're learning a lot feels like a lot of push and pull and back and forth questions. And for me, the idea of having a platform that just enables our clients to go have any type of conversation they feel like they need to have to understand their business, their customers, their market better is awesome. So that idea of this replatforming, having more economical means to go out and collect a lot more feedback, but it's still deep. It still gives you meat around why they're doing what they're doing, how they're thinking about things, how they feel about your product, solution, pricing, whatever. That to me is super exciting. And we're pretty close to that. That's not way out on the horizon. Like we're getting really close to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea of a next generation research platform that's anchored around this idea of you can have as many conversations as you want with customers at scale. And we're going to provide you the tools to analyze, derive insights, and take action.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're not throwing away methodology.
Yeah.
Right? Like all the methodology still is part of the interview guide, is part of the process.
Yeah.
Right? That's all still there. You can enforce methodology through a conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's an incredibly powerful, exciting idea, and I can't wait.
Yeah. Super awesome. Thanks, JT. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for joining us.